session with my site. I'm going to tell you guys about it. It was intense, it was amazing, it was insane, and it needs to be documented. So, let's get into it. On the site aspect of it, I am so used to just knowing what I'm doing that I stumbled a lot. The person was very, very, very considerate, understanding, and also I just let the session go over so that it could adapt to the time of me kind of getting used, getting my bearings again, and it worked out for both of us. So what Megan really wanted to do was get into her Akashic library and then figure out her spiritual gifts and what she does. She already knows that she's able to burst clouds. She does that with her right hand. But why she does it, how she does it, and what more she could do with it, she really wanted to grasp that. And I was like, okay, so let's figure that out. She also is someone who doesn't really feel the healings very much. So we worked on that as well. When we finally cleaned her out and got her kind of feeling stuff again, did that kind of work, took her into her library, it felt like the bottom of a church basement, just filled with stuff, just kind of gunked up. Not gunked up, but it just had a lot of crap in it. So then we did her house cleanse, which usually cleans things up right away. But it still felt like amnesia-ish. I know you guys say I live here, but this doesn't feel like my house. And we were both feeling that. I know this is supposed to be my library, but this doesn't feel right to me. So then we removed the extra mirages layer. When we did this, I started to go upside down. It reminded me of in the movie Labyrinth, where they're on the stairs scene, and they can turn and walk upside down. And I was like, oh, your library is a labyrinth. When the personal Akashic libraries are a puzzle, that means you have something locked inside. So we asked to see what she had locked inside, and I was like, no pressure, but usually if someone has something locked inside their vault, inside their library, it's something for humanity. Just letting you know, it's something. So she was presented with this ornate, about this size, on the other end, about here, the size of this phone screen right here, okay? Like a music box, like an old school jewelry box. It was dark, like cherry wood with gold ornates on it. And when she opened it, something flew out of it and just hovered here. And I was like, okay, is it a fairy? Is it a light orb? Is it a lightning bug? What is it? And she's like, it's a light orb. And I was like, that's what I'm getting to. What do you need to do with it? She's like, I feel like it needs to go inside of me. And I was like, that's what I'm getting to. So ask to merge with it. So she did. So then the next stop was, show me the life that I utilized this gift. What do I need to go to heal? All of a sudden, I was laying in this field, laying down, and it was very picturesque, like a photo shoot kind of thing. The hair, in curls, laying on the ground, and there were butterflies eating off of her, and this sparkly energy, and fairies nibbling on her fingertips kind of shit. And I was like, what the fuck is this? What do you do exactly? And this is before I knew about the cloud bursting thing. And it reminded me of the trees, how they produce oxygen for us, but they eat the carbon monoxide. So these entities, these nature beings were eating off of her, but she had transmuted energy, so they were also how spicy peppers taste like chocolate to parrots, that kind of analogy. But talking about this led to her telling me how she burst the clouds and stuff, and I was like, okay, but there's more. She does the cloud thing. It reminds me of the wave like this, or Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off. And I was like, okay, but where are the clouds going? Because you're erasing them. When I vacuum, sometimes I turn into the vacuum and the energy goes through me. So she was going like this and wiping off the clouds, but the energy of it was going through her right arm, down her body, and out the ground. We felt her whole right side of her was tingling. It was in action. And I was like, yeah, but most people pull stuff out with their left hand and push things out with the right hand. So what is your left hand doing? And then I saw this kind of motion to the ground, and she was pulling stuff up. I'm like, are you pulling water? Are you pulling glitter? What the fuck is this? It's sparkly, and it was energy, kind of like water. There was the elemental energies. So then I was like, are you a fairy? Are you a nymph? Do you work with the elements? She's like, I don't feel like a fairy or a nymph. I was like, I work with elementals. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me. I don't feel any wings, or you figure out what happened, why she took that spark, that healing spark. There was this feeling of the world was changing. It was becoming dark. The clouds were rolling in. It was like the storm rolling in. You knew the times were changing. And she had to take that spark of healing and that essence of her out of her and lock it away. Because most people died and got amnesia. She didn't die. Like, she had to just lock that part of herself away. So once we figured that out, then we were able to heal before the impending clouds and darkness came to the whole planet, which took a few steps, but we were able to get it. We asked to see the next point of healing, and then I started going down like this again, like I was going on those stairs, and I was like, I feel like we're going like upside down into like the underworld. And then I went, holy fuck, are you Persephone? Then her whole body started to like, yes. Please look at my series on Oversouls. She was a bit freaked out by that a little bit. Like, well, not freaked out, but like taken aback because she had never even thought to look at herself as Persephone. But when your soul goes through trauma, you don't necessarily look to the parts of you. Like, a lot of the stuff that I found, I had no fucking clue. I had no draw to it. Like, I had no draw to ancient Egypt or Lemuria or Greek times or anything because of trauma. When we went to the underworld, it was like this cave, like inside a waterfall kind of feeling. But again, it felt like the library. It felt like something was off. Like there was a spell put on it or a mirage. So we did the same thing we did to her library. And then I was like, she's looking for something. And she felt she was looking for something. And I'm like, what are you looking for? Or who are you looking for? And she's like, my husband, like my other half or whatever. It was stuck inside the cave like an Encino Man, which is a movie from the 90s. And we used my wrecking ball to break him free. And then it was this like big romantic like join together. Down there reminded me of Pan. We asked to see the next point of healing. And she started to do the thing where she like laid down again. But this time she was pushing walls. And it felt like she was pushing all the walls out. And then the bottom had to rise up. Like lifting the underworld to this energy level. It was extremely intense. Our bodies felt like we had a massive workout afterwards. And then we balanced. We did all the closing statements. We rippled everything forward. So I definitely need to document this part because it was, it's 11/11. It was like a world event sort of thing. I don't know exactly what it's going to bring about, but it was the next step in the Rubik's Cube of moving things and bringing things to the light and all that shit. Also, just, here's some reference pictures. When she was in the garden, when she was doing energy work. This was interesting because it reminded me that the human part of Hades was locked and caged. This is her lovers with the soul, because the human's locked up. A little bit of this, a little bit of this. Session with Sam. I've been working with Sam or known her on TikTok for, I don't know, at least a year. Sometimes she can feel my stuff, sometimes she can't. But we, have done work for her son, and we're having issues there, so we're going to try to see if we can connect with him and me. That's a side note, because just in case you don't know, I work with kids for free. You don't have to schedule a session. We just find a time when it works with the parent on the phone. Just letting you know. So we're going to set that up for him later. But she and I did some cool shit today. One part of it, we went to our library and it was like a puzzle or a maze. And if you have a library, an Akashic library that has a puzzle or a maze, you're keeping something in there, like a vault. And so the maze is to trick other people up, but our humans get amnesia, so it tricks us up sometimes. So we asked to see what is hidden in there, what we need to release. We asked what puzzle we needed to release, like what is hidden in here that she needed to find. So she unlocks it, and neither of us can see, we just feel, and we feel like this intense amount of pressure, and we're like, fuck. And so we even said, like, we can't see, but we can hear and we can feel, and we're like, okay, Spirit, please put this in a language we can understand. And all of a sudden I hear that, dun da dun da da, I come from the ice and snow, that fucking song by Led Zeppelin. And so I look up the lyrics, and I read the lyrics, and then I was like, have you ever seen Thor Ragnarok? And she's like, yeah, I watched it last night. And I'm like, the sister in that? This chick. But in Norse paganism, this chick. She's a soul fragment of that. And that also made sense why she could feel my healings half the time, and half the time not. So to double check, we took her down to the center point, because that's where her soul needed to heal. And now to merge to see if you're part of something. You can't merge with it if you're not, okay? So if you're like, I really like Anubus, I'm going to try to merge with Anubus. It ain't going to fucking let you. It's not. You can only merge with things that are part of your oversoul. So some people go up to the 24th dimension to merge. Some people go down to the negative 24th dimension to merge. And some people go to center point, where they're a balance of light and dark, which makes sense for Hel of Norse mythology. We went to center point to see if she could merge. Down we went, merged right away, easy peasy, did the healings, went back, calibrated to our rightful dimensions, and I realized the thing that she had in her library was Thor's smashed hammer, which is, it's part of my oversoul. It's not me, it's my twin flame. That's hard to explain. I talk about it a lot. Went to look up the song on YouTube and found this. Begins to work with Nancy today. And I'm a past life healer, so I don't just help you see your past lives. We go back and see how we can heal it and change it. We don't usually aim, we just have spirit show us like where we need to go. That's typically how it works. Sometimes we aim it like if you have a fear of heights or drowning, but for the most part we just go, take us where we need to go, and then we go there. So I started out with the basic cleansing stuff that I normally do with Nancy, and I felt like she was standing on a stage with like a spotlight on her, and she's like, that's interesting because someone read my cards not that long ago and they said that I was on a stage, but in the audience were other versions of me. And I was like, yep, that's accurate. That's exactly what I'm feeling. So I took her and all the parts of her that her soul had found up to the 24th dimension. She's like, oh, I feel like I'm in an elevator. I'm like, yep, it feels like an elevator. This thing. Since we went up to the 24th and we started merging everything together, we decided to take advantage of that and do the Intense Energy Vampire Cleanse series to the entire oversoul from her all the way down, if it was in the highest good, if the souls can sense, and the humans are ready for it. I've started to do this in almost every session just so we can clean up as much as possible as far as we're allowed. When I was doing that with her, I almost projectile vomited. That was really interesting, and we didn't exactly know what it was, but it was something that was leaving her, like, something that had invaded her oversoul that needed to be removed. And we got it out. I mean, we were laughing about it, but it was painful, but it was still funny. She was talking about her connection to Anubis. She didn't really feel like she was Anubis, but she felt like she was connected to Anubis. Like in her practice, she's connected to Anubis. First, I was feeling around thinking that maybe she was a part of Anubis. And what I mean by that is, I'll probably put a disclaimer on the videos, is that these entities, these gods, these beings, these angels, these demons, quote unquote, these aliens, they're all different dimensional forms of us. We're multidimensional beings. And so many of us as three-dimensional forms, as humans, are a part of, and when I mean like many of us, I mean everybody on Earth. Many are part of Anubis, many are part of Ra, many are part of Nephthys, so on. So we asked to see the life connected to Anubis. That way, if she isn't them, we could find out why that's coming up. So she was watching Anubis perform. Well, actually, she wasn't watching Anubis perform surgery. She was watching Anubis curled up. And, like, Anubis is a badass. So the fact that he was curled up like a child was interesting to me. I know from previous work done with other people that when Set took the body parts from all the gods, like he took the brain from Thoth, the wings and the heart from Nephthys, he took the eyes of Horace, he took all these different body parts. Anubis was the trusted surgeon to put those all together for Set. Anubis is neutral. He's not for the light, he's not for the dark. Like, even he was born of Nephthys, who was part of the dark, and born to Osiris, who is part of the light. So he's a neutral, dark to light side. Even though we're working to neutralize the duality of everything, it didn't used to be. There used to be duality. I mean, you live on this earth, you know there was duality. There was right and wrong, all of that. One thing that plagued Anubis was his perfectionism, his Hippocratic oath to surgery. He took his job very, very seriously. Even though Set had taken all the parts from all the different gods and he was trying to create a super god, he entrusted Anubis, who's the best surgeon, to do the work. And Anubis has dedication to his job. Since the surgery was stopped in previous work, at this point we're seeing Anubis curled up because he feels devastated because he has broken his Hippocratic oath. He has broken his oath to surgery. And since my 7-year-old is a part of Anubus, you could be too. Many people are. She just happens to be. I was able to break the soul contract connected to the Hippocratic Oath, to free him from feeling devastated that the surgery didn't go as it was supposed to go. Once that step was done, we were able to see that Nancy, who I was on the phone with, her eye was the eye of Horace, and then she could really see what soul fragment of what god she was a part of. It's really tricky telling you guys these stories of these things that we heal. I want you to know that each and every single one of you can heal these things. Each and every single human that is on this planet, from what I have experienced, are a part of these gods and goddesses. And you are assigned a certain thing to heal for them because you are a soul fragment of them. So anyway, Nancy as Horace is like trying to cover her eye, trying to do the, figure out her eye, cover it up, because Horace is prophetic. Horace sees this event going to happen. He sees the devastation of Egypt, and he knows that Set taking his eye sets the whole thing off. Sets the whole thing off. Set is not a bad guy. I'm getting to this. This is just the storyline that we have to heal, the timeline. So I know that I'm part of Nephthys, so I ask Nancy on the phone to go find Kat, and she's taken to Nephthys. Horace comes to me, and we're like, hey, how can we stop this from happening? Because that's the whole thing. We do it just like we do here. Someone is prophetic. Someone else helps time travel to neutralize. We're all a part of the puzzle. That's how it all operates throughout space and time. That's how it all operates. Well, earlier, before Nancy had a session with me, she was handed a box. This box is Pandora's box, because she's also connected to Hermes, who is a messenger. I digress, because that wasn't in this session, so she just happened to have the box. But if you put the darkness, if I take the darkness out of Set, and it's like hanging above his head, right? Because the darkness took over, which is greed and jealousy and depression and anger and fear. If it takes over the vessel, Egypt, the Project Earth of ancient Egypt gets destroyed, because then Set releases chaos. Anyway, but if we put the darkness that was in him in the box, we create Pandora's box. So we've got this box, and we're asking Spirit, like, what do we need to do with the box? Because we need to transmute. This is actually the same situation that kind of happened with the crucifixion thing. A vessel is a bottle, is a body, is a house, right? It's a container. So what we did, how we messed up with the Pandora's box thing, us as humans, how we messed up, it's the Pandora box thing, is we put the darkness in, which could be unlocked. How we messed up in the crucifixion thing is we put the darkness in to the vessel, and then when it rose from the dead, we released Pandora's box. It's the same fucking situation. So we had to figure out a way to transmute the dark into light, neutralize it. So Spirit showed us to fill, like we saw there was a liquid in there, and I was like, I don't know if it's Universal Ocean, I don't know if it's MEK, I don't know what this is. And it was, I think it's source water. So let's open the box, and we said, Spirit, please fill the box with whatever fluid is supposed to be in. After we fill the box with this universal source light, then I'm shown to take the darkness that I pulled out of Set, which was floating there. I'm supposed to take it and put it through the keyhole of Pandora's box so it can transmute into the box without having to, like, trap it in. I don't lock things up, so this was, like, I transmute things, I can do that. This part was disturbing for me because Nephthys had a wand to pull it into the keyhole, and I'm totally against wands, staffs, any of that shit. So I had to release soul fragments with that, because I think the fact that I used the wand to put the darkness in the box the first time without transmuting it, and then the darkness got released on the world, I think that's one of the things I had to heal about locking stuff up, and it's also why I fucking hated wands. It makes sense. So I had to use this wand thing as Nancy's holding the box, then we put the darkness in the box and it transmuted it. But now Pandora's box doesn't have to happen. We healed that time. So Nancy and I, after we got off our session and, closed everything up and did all the stuff we were supposed to do, we both went and watched Gods of Egypt. I haven't seen that movie in a year.
Bye.
Hi, Casey Ray. And what's funny is Casey Ray and other 2 to 3 year olds on the planet right now are part of Ra. All of their oversoul is about the same age, and there's quite a few of them. But they're all the same age because they were locked up since ancient Egypt, and they got released back in like 2017, 18. Really long story. I've talked about it before, but it takes too long. So I'm watching The Gods of Egypt with Casey Ray, and Anubis comes on the screen, and she's like, "Ooh, Jadebug's scary." And I was like, yes, Jadebug looks scary in this. And she's like, "Ooh, scary Jadebug in this. Ooh." And she had never seen the movie before. She just knew that she saw Anubis, and she knew it was Jade, which is super interesting. A lot of shit that I just didn't even notice in The Gods of Egypt that I noticed this time. One, on Ra's ship, you can see that it's Universal Ocean, which is Space's ocean, and you can see that Earth is flat, but the way that they have it is like one side is our Earth and the other side is the underworld, which kind of reminds me of Stranger Things. And instead of a hollow Earth theory, it's like the upside down. Which is expanding my mind into looking at that a little bit further, because the hollow earth thing, I'm like, yeah, because I know that there's creatures under there and there's holes to get to the bottom under Antarctica, and I saw all that, and I knew that the earth was flat, but I didn't know how to put those two things together, and I'm looking at that and I'm like, oh. So I'll show you a few scenes from earlier that I
Hello, Pilgrim. My look is inspired by a good old-fashioned Salem witch, with flames coming up the dress, as if I'm being bred at the stake. I am serving old-school witch, like literally, from like 1510.
Somebody call the fire brigade!
Paging Arthur Miller.
Abigail!
Raja.
So this is Drag Race Season 11, episode, I believe, like 4. Nina West is known for being very political with her drag. She's very intelligent. She's an activist, and she knows her American history.